Hey guys, how's it going? KRIPP'S here. Today I want to give you guys another Path of Exile video. Now, you guys showed me quite a lot of love the last time I did one of these for the Burning Animate Guardian in the last league. And now in Sentinel League, I want to give you guys the build I've been playing. It is a highly successful build. It is a build I've played a version of in the past, but I thought I could take it to a new level and kind of show how this build really should be played. A few of my viewers actually copied my build, and they say it's the strongest build I've ever played. So, quick map showcase, I suppose, and always, you know, really need that help on the algorithm. If you guys want to thumb it up, if you guys want to like the video, if you like the video, I would appreciate it. So I've been doing sepulcher maps. My Atlas strategy is pretty simple. I have every 14 except sepulcher favorited, and I have your fan maps cannot be your favorite maps. So the only T14 I can find is sepulcher, and the reason I have that is because I have Wrath of the Cosmos, which you basically get a lot of Eldritch currency, but for each altar you click on, you take 25% more damage. And I'll show you guys why that's important. We're doing a map with Chain, because I don't have the Chain Pantheon as the summoner. Some people think it's impossible to play without that. We're doing a no regen map, and I will try to avoid using Life Flask, so you can see how that works out. And a little bit extra damage. That should actually do quite a bit of extra damage to me, because I don't really have notably high fire resist. Alright, so it is Absolution. I like to use the Sentinel early, because if you use it too late, with the increased damage taken, it can be a little bit problematic. But for now, it's going to work out. I don't even know what kind of Sentinel I have. I don't even look at them anymore, really. Oh wow, Zealotry, that's not bad. But I already have an enchant on my helmet. This character has pretty damn good gear. I will show you guys the Path of Building. The Path of Building is actually worse gear than I currently have on this character. But you have to keep in mind that even though that is the case, this is a solo self-found character. And because Ryan and I actually just got back for some camping, and you guys can see a little bit of that on our social media if you want. This character's level 98. I got to level 98 on the third day of the league. I haven't played it a whole lot since then. We've been pretty busy with the trip, with planning for the trip. Ooh, this should be pretty nice. Let's get quantity, and let's get, sure, quantity, extra damage is cold. So now we're taking 50% extra damage in a no regen map. Sure, let's give him a whole bunch of resists. We're now taking 75% damage in a no regen map. I have not used the potion. Alright, I guess we're gonna go to 100% on this one. This actually is pushing it quite a bit, but whatever, it's fine. In terms of offense, this character is probably doing about 20 million DPS or so, maybe a little bit less because I don't have the brittle boots. More about that soon. And defensive-wise, I have about 50,000 armor with Granite up. That's why I can get the 10k Molten Shell. And I have 77 spell block. Some evasion. Oh, I'm bleeding here. I'm not sure I can out-leech this bleed with 100. Oh, I could. There we go. No potion used. Oh, and man, trust me, these monsters are terrible with Chain. These are some of the worst monsters with Chain. And nevertheless, I have not used the health potion in this map. And I don't even have a mana potion. And we'll go over how all of that works soon enough. It is pretty interesting mechanically. Okay. And that's a boss, if you want to call it that. Sure. Oh, we do actually have more than 50 left. But anyway, the main reason why I like specifically this map is the major mechanics. So we're talking about like Harvest, Legion, like the big stuff, the big stuff. The big stuff can only spawn in this first part. And that is really, really important. Because if you have the progressive increased damage taken as you're playing through the map, you don't really want to do like a Harvest when you're taking 100% increased damage, because your defenses don't really matter at that point. Anyway, so that's pretty good, right? That's a pretty good build right there. I would say so. Anyway, good defenses, 77 spell block. I got like 50-something block. With flasks, we got 10,000 evasion, so I don't actually need like max regular block. Like bosses don't really attack anyway. I have 100% spell suppression, which is pretty nice. We have 8% physical damage reduction on the shield. I have a new chest I'm working on that has 7%, and we do indeed have endurance charges with Enduring Composure. We have 4 of those. So very, very good physical mitigation, very good tankiness, very high DPS. Everything just seems really good about this build. So this build is really good, right? Right. This build is really good. Just for you number nuts, so this is my POB. Link is below for this. It is 23 million DPS with all the crap added up. And there are a few different things about this that are pretty important. It's a build that is exceptionally good at doing basically any map modifier. And yeah, it's just an overall very solid build. I actually put this build together originally because I wanted to play the hard mode, but the hard mode never came out. I intended originally to use Purity of Elements instead of Zealotry, just to basically make the character a literal no gear requirement character, but that didn't end up really being the case. So gear is actually really crazy this league. Like, this is the chest I'm working on. It's not quite done because I need a non-blue to blue socket conversion from Harvest, and I have like 1,500 fusing, so I could do that pretty easy. And yeah, like chests like these, like life, percent life, like just crazy stuff. Yeah, recombobulators. Wow, recombobulators are really, really good. That's how I have gear that when I made that POB, I didn't think was possible. Like fizz reduction, spell suppression, and plus skill shields. Like, what the hell is that thing? That's insane, right? Yeah, well, just recombobulate away. This build, the POB, the one thing the POB does have is Ashes of Stars, and Ashes of Stars is really good for this build. In addition to being very high damage, it's probably higher damage than a +2. It does a few other things that are quite notable, and a lot of them have to do with Arctic armor. So I'm using Anomalous Arctic armor, which gives you a chance to freeze enemies for basically 1/3 of a second when you're hit. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but when you block a hit, you are still getting hit. It is a blocked hit, but you're still getting hit. That's why you can get stunned when you block a hit, because you're still getting hit. So the idea that I had was to use Anomalous Arctic armor and get that freeze when hit close to 100%. 100% is actually possible, but you have to increase the quality through Ashes of the Stars primarily, a few other ways, and you have to use stuff like Arctic armor buff effect. So if you do that, you can have 100% chance to freeze enemies, including bosses, interrupting their cycle when you block their hits or spell hits, which is crazy. And also, if you have buff effect on Anomalous Arctic armor, the less physical and less fire damage taken is really nice, because that actually goes over like the physical damage reduction cap for one. That's pretty sweet. And there's certainly a lot of fire damage that you want to be reducing. Now, Arctic armor, on one hand, is really good, but on the other hand, it's a little bit tricky to run. If you run the full reservation skill tree like I have, you still need 10% mana reservation from somewhere else. Again, Ashes of the Stars, easy peasy. However, they nerfed the drop rate, so you might not get one. I don't have one yet. I might not get one at all this league. But you can get 10% on the implicit of a helmet, but if you're solo self-found like me, that might take a while or might never happen. So the next best thing is to get 8% and then use a jewel that has a corrupted 2%. So that's how I'm able to run Arctic armor. Also, if you notice, I have no mana. Okay, and you also notice that I just did that no regen map without using a single mana potion. So how did that happen? So one interesting thing, and it's probably the single biggest mistake that I see Absolution builds make. I've seen a lot of people, like if you go to POE Ninja and see other people playing Absolution, they're not going to have Spiritual Aid. Spiritual Aid puts my player casted, like, hold on, just Just so you know, I'm not bullshitting you guys. Like, where is it here? Oh, it's here. Player. Yes. There's that. 526,000 DPS. That's me. Okay? And this node, the spiritual aid, is actually accounting for about 3% of the total damage of every minion. So it's actually a good node. But it also lets me, well, one-shot most things in the map with my player. So getting Absolution started when a map starts, it's effortless. You literally just one-shot the first thing in front of you, bam, you got Absolutions rolling and doing 20 mil. Right? It's a ridiculous skill. Absolution is insane. So Spiritual Aid is really, really good. You would be crazy to not get Spiritual Aid if you're playing Absolution. You're probably following a build guide and someone who doesn't actually know how to play the game and set up a build like this. Now, since you're doing 500k DPS, you can get some Lightning Leech. You can get it on your glove, you can get it on like an amulet or a ring if you're playing Trade League, but if you're playing solo self-found, most likely you're going to have to get it on your gloves like I have here. Now, it's an Eater of Worlds implicit, so it's a lot easier to get those things because you're farming for Ashes of Stars anyway. So, yeah, I was able to not use a potion in that map because this build has incredibly high defenses, and, well, I'm leeching. It's like max leech all the time. That's 20% life regeneration, okay? That's a lot. We also have Eldritch Battery. Eldritch Battery, which is the thingy over here. So it spends energy shield before mana for skill mana costs. All right. Now, this is really interesting. I don't know when this changed, but if you use a spell that has especially large mana costs like Absolution, it doesn't interrupt the recharge. It's constantly... I don't have any percent regeneration. I only have energy shield recharge, but it doesn't interrupt it. It used to, like years and years ago. Last time I played like Eldritch Battery, I don't know, maybe half a decade back. It used to, but it doesn't anymore. So Eldritch Battery is actually really good for skills that cost a ton of mana. Now, Absolution has always cost a lot of mana, and Absolution builds in the past have sometimes gone the way of stacking mana cost reduction of skills stats. Now, that ends up taking quite a lot of points and a lot of effort. It can work that way, but one little thing that I noticed leading into this build is the Divine Blessing support gem. So the Divine Blessing support gem takes an aura, and instead of putting it up permanently, it puts it up temporarily. Now, because we're playing Necromancer and we have this shared offering thing, this 11 seconds becomes like 19 or something. Yeah, 18.7. So you don't have to use it that often. But it gives the aura increased aura effect, but it still takes the cost. So what people usually do with Divine Blessing builds is they link it with Life Tap. It costs them like 20-30% of their life, and they try to sync it up with like a life potion at the same time. That's some pretty squirrely shit. You can do that. It's not bad, but it's not as good as this, okay? So we have Generosity, Divine Blessing with our Wrath aura. Wrath does a lot of damage, more if I get another skill level on it. That's what we're working on next. And because we have Eldritch Battery, you use it here, it just takes up my energy shield. But my energy shield's basically infinite mana anyway. So it's very much a free aura with increased effect. So that's how we're getting Wrath. That is one of the big techs for the build. We are using an entire extra aura for free with extra effect, and we're also able to reserve our entire mana pool, and we don't really give a shit about mana cost reduction stuff, so we have a lot more build flexibility. And we don't give a shit about like no regen maps because Energy Shield regenerates, because it's not recharge. It's not regeneration, it's recharge that we're getting mana back from. And we don't even care about Energy Shield on gear, because if you've checked my gear, I don't even have any. All you need is a prefix, and you use the 10% life as extra maximum Energy Shield. That is all the Energy Shield this character has. That is all of it, right? So the benefit versus investment is insane. It's really a showcase of how powerful Eldritch Battery can be. So that is a really big factor for the build. The build is tanky enough that you don't really need to have full spell suppression, but it's very helpful. I certainly would recommend that you get 77 spell block. This trivializes a lot of content. Most bosses, most hard bosses and hard content in Path of Exile is based on spells, okay? And except for like Simulacrum. So if you have 77 spell block, that is a massive defensive layer against spells. You have armor because, well, you have determination and you can put it in a +3 ring. These rings are pretty difficult to craft normally, but with the recombobulators they're really easy. I actually crafted this one just through harvest stuff, I believe. So I have 2 +3 rings. That's pretty nice. In terms of the gem links themselves, you have Absolution, Lightning Penetration. Spell Echo increases your mana efficiency per cast, and it's really important to cast as fast as possible because you need to get those minions up as fast as possible. The faster you cast, the easier it is to move between casts, so it's actually defensive. That's why this build actually stacks a lot of cast speed. You don't really want to play Absolution with low cast speed, especially with Spell Echo, but Spell Echo is such a good gem, mana-wise, overall cast speed-wise, and most importantly, it severely improves the AI of your Absolution minions, which is big, big, big. Physical to lightning, you kind of need to do this just so you do a full lightning hit. Crit damage, we'll get to that in a second. And Predator, you don't need Anomalous or whatever, just Predator is really good. So again, you can push the AI limits, especially single target versus a boss. So increased critical damage is really important. You get a big benefit from the Kingmaker on your Animate Guard that gives 50 crit multiplier. You have this critical damage gem giving 148. That's a whole lot. You can get a little bit more crit multiplier from Vicious Bite. And similar to crit multiplier stuff, you get renewals. So I would recommend that you get 2 renewal passives through clusters. I have a really good cluster jewel. It's really hard to get a better one than this, but I have 3 of these, by the way. They're not that hard to roll if you use crit rerolls in Harvest. But it's not just the Vicious Bite. You really want the renewal. And the reason the build does so much damage is because you can get an extremely high shock value. It has a lot of crit multiplier. You can get 100% crit if you get Brutal on Boots. I don't have Brutal on Boots because you saw the damage wasn't really a problem. Right now I'm just power farming Sepulchres for a number of reasons, primarily Ash of the Stars. When I start getting into, crazy bossing, I probably will go for the Brutal on Boots. That's going to be like a 50 to 60% more damage increase compared to the damage I currently have. Yes, it's a lot. And the main reason why crit multiplier and especially renewal cluster skills are really important is because that dictates your maximum damage for shocking. Okay, so shocks are applied when you crit. And the scale of the shock, which is an increased damage taken debuff, is based on how much the damage of the hit versus the total monster's life. Now you will see a build like this one have like a 30+% shock on like Elder, like end game pinnacle bosses, like massive shock. How is that happening? It actually is happening because the crit multiplier is really high, and it's happening because of the renewal gems. So the really big shocks, they're going to be big crits that also proc the double damage of renewal. If you don't have like these renewal things, you actually lose on quite a lot of damage. So if you're playing like a physical based build, 5% chance to deal double damage, that's 5% more damage. If you're playing like a physical build, cold build, whatever, fire, it's a bit different, but about the same, right? But if you're playing a lightning based minion build, 5% chance to deal double damage is not 5% more damage. It can be quite a lot more than that because even like with 2 of these, it's not 10% more damage. This effectively doubles the power of my shock. But actually, it's a little bit more than that, and I'll explain. So if you do like 100 damage versus 200 damage, you also have to weigh in the value of the shock when this damage is being done. So if you deal 100 damage and shock for like 10%, Then when you hit it again, you hit it for like 110. And because you hit it for 110, the shock value goes up to 11. And then, you know, just inches up just a little bit. But because with the renewal, you have a chance to deal double damage, that double damage hit massively pushes the top end of your damage. So you do like 100, 100, 100, but then you deal 200. And when you deal 200, your shock value is going to be 20. But the next time you deal 200 and the shock value is 20 and not 10, you're going to do even more. So you're really pushing massive shock values when you have one. And my recommendation is a couple of renewal clusters. Really, really big for lightning builds. Just quickly going over the gear, it's really easy to make a wand like this. You just roll minion essences until you get plus physical or lightning, and then you lock prefixes and use a veiled orb. You try to get the minions have increased attack speed and cast speed, or the trigger craft, and then you just craft the one that you don't get. Attack speed is converted into player attack speed, as well as your zombies and stuff. So it's nice to just, you know, have a movement skill like shield charge. It's linked to nothing. It doesn't even have faster attacks, and it's certainly faster than this character can possibly run, especially in open maps. You want a +3 helmet just to get that 4th Spectre, which I believe is at level 25. Shield, high flexibility. Chest, again, high flexibility, but the implicits are pretty important. It's really beneficial to get the spell damage, the block spell damage, but you don't need it, right? You can get the block spell damage there. So there's a lot of flexibility in the build. Gloves, just filling in missing stuff. The boots, I highly recommend you get boots with the cannot be chilled. You can do what I do, is get really good suffixes and then lock suffixes and veiled orb until you get the movement speed cannot be chilled veiled craft. There you go. That's a really big one. Because if you have cannot be chilled, you have cannot be frozen from Arctic armor, you have cannot be shocked from Tempest shield, you can go Soul of the Arakali. So reduced damage taken from damage over time, which, trust me, in this current Sentinel arch nemesis bullshit, is like all the damage that you can take. You don't need to cap your chaos resist, because most of the chaos damage you're taking is from damage over time. You get recovery rate of life and energy shield if you stop taking damage now recently, which is super often right now. Debuff is expiring. It's just so insane. So highly recommend this, but you do need to get a few things going on your character before you get that going. The only unique that I think is close to, but it's not mandatory, but it's close to mandatory, is the Darkness Enthroned. It's just really good. It's also a lot of damage, and you also need to have a minions have increased all elemental resistances. This is because you have the 8 to all max. If you have your zombie in a ring instead of your helmet linked to elemental armor, you need it for your zombies. But I actually started using Animate Guardian this level, so like Animate Guardian is like a very iffy thing in this patch. But I've only had an Animate Guardian die once ever, and that was actually my first minion build back in Delirium. So I'm confident my Animate Guardian will not die in this current setup, and I'll show you guys the gear in a moment. But before that, I had the zombie gem in there, so you don't need the resist for the zombies, but you always want to have minions have all resists. You need, I think, 13 or 14 to bridge the cap between their base resists, the Commander of Darkness bonus for 30%, and the actual cap, which is 8 over 75. It's 83. And the reason that you want that is actually for your Absolution minions, because there's no real convenient way to otherwise bridge that gap for your Absolution minions themselves, as well as some of the Spectres, but primarily Absolution minions, because if you have them at really high resist, you can actually do Elemental Reflect maps as well. You can actually block your own Elemental Reflected hits with your spell block and reduce the damage with your spell suppression. It actually works both ways for those, so it's very good. Yeah, that's about it. I don't think there's anything too crazy. So charges, you get frenzies from the Frenzy Monkey. I use the Power Monkey as well. Absolution minions are really impressive because they're scaled like temporary minions, but unlike, for example, Dominating Blow, you don't create new ones when you proc versus a unique or get a new kill. It actually refreshes the duration of your existing ones. So it's very easy to maintain temporary buffs and charges on them. And charges on minions are extremely powerful. They are much stronger than the charges on players. So that's why we use the Frenzy Monkey for frenzy charges. It keeps them up pretty well. I really like Assassin Mark just being hard cast here, because you get the quality bonus, which is 5% chance to grant a power charge when hit. If you have Ash of the Stars, this goes to 12.5%. This makes it so when you start on a boss fresh, you can actually scale to get all your power charges up on each minion through that effect, in addition with the Spectre buff. And that's really important when you're playing a build that gets 100% chance to crit when you have Brutal Ground from your boots going, which, again, I just don't need it right now. Yep, Determination. I don't use Grace. I just have some evasion gear. Stacking evasion is really good, but only with Ghost Shrouds. If you don't have Ghost Shrouds, evasion is good, but not crazy. Oh yes, let's talk about Zealotry. So we have the Wrath set up in a Generosity, but I do not have Zealotry linked with Generosity. Why is that? That's because the difference in damage is not that big. It's like, 4 or 5% maybe. But if I have it not linked with Generosity, my player, which is constantly casting, is going to constantly trigger Consecrated Ground. And Consecrated Ground is 5% regen for me, and it's 5% regen for my minions, and the curse effect reduction. So it's really, really good. And when I make a character, I always weigh in the balance between offense and defense. Sure, I can be a POB warrior sometimes, but I'm not going to sacrifice 10% survivability for 5% damage. It's always a balance. And I feel that Zealotry is actually much stronger not linked with Generosity. And that's because the Consecrated Ground helps a lot. That's why I'm confident my minions will not die. I have Bone Offering, which, because of the increased effective offerings that I have, is actually 5% life regenerated if they've blocked recently. The Zealotry is another 5 from the Consecrated Ground. The 2 Renewal Gems is 2%, and a few other effects throughout the character. Also, the block chance is improved significantly by the Fortress Covenant. This is a really important gem because you're taking your minions' block from roughly 50 to roughly 60-something. That's a massive increase in survivability. It's like 20+% in just raw survivability, but having a higher chance to block triggers that regeneration effect more reliably and more frequently. If you have a penalty-based region notable in a cluster jewel setup, it's like radius effect does not trigger. So you actually need to have a cluster jewel in order to use Fortress Covenant there. Yeah, pretty important with that one. It's nice to have an anatomical knowledge, just because the build only has, like, I don't know, 170% HP or something. It's not like a crazy amount of HP, but you saw just how tanky it is. It is very tanky. It is very successful. Now, going back to the Spectres, if you guys do get the POB, I have a number of... Where is it here? Is it the calcs? No, it's the configuration, I think. Yeah. So if you go to configuration down here, it has a few modifiers that might surprise you, but they're certainly real. And let's go over them. So 50 crit multiplier, that is effect of the Kingmaker. The Kingmaker can be farmed. I actually farmed it through divination cards alone. Actually, you can get them in Sepulchre, the map I was doing. So that is very nice. Plus 10 fortification, very nice. Additional curse, we'll get into that in a second. That is Animate Guardian. That is Animate Guardian. Baronic Cleric is the 3rd Spectre. Minions gain 20% of physical as extra lightning damage. So that is like a pretty large multiplier in damage. That is this aura. It is literally a permanent aura. It doesn't have a very large radius, but if there is a mob around, the Cleric's AI is, if not similar, exactly copied from Absolution. So they're actually, if you go near a mob and convocate, they're just going to stay on the same spot. So it's 100% uptime on your Absolution if you're using convocation properly. And, well, I am. So that is ridiculous. This aura is not affected by anything. Nothing affects this aura. You can't even increase its radius. It's super, super locked. So it is just what it is. It's what you see. You can get that from any Baron map. Just kill one, res it. I do not believe you can desecrate that one. Primal Rex Matriarch. Nearby enemies take 50% increased lightning damage. Wait, that seems pretty broken. Well, it is. That's this little dinosaur here. He is from Harvest. He is the Harvest mob that flips Breachstones, so it's a pretty rare one. Also, all Harvest mobs despawn after like 2 seconds upon killing them, so you have to be really quick about rezzing this Spectre. This Spectre has a Screech. I believe it has an 8-second cooldown and about a 6-second duration based on my experience with getting annihilated by Harvest monsters. And this is indeed 50% more lightning damage taken, or increased lightning damage taken. It's like adding 50 to your shock value, basically, which is crazy. Now, I don't know how it works when it's the Spectre, because I have the minion duration nodes. I think these actually do work on the duration of the lightning debuff, which makes that 100% uptime as well. But unless I would test this in PvP under very strict conditions, I actually wouldn't know for sure if that is 100% or like 80%. But if you kill the boss in 6 seconds, 100%. And let me tell you, I have killed just about every boss in 6 seconds, so that works out just fine. And Brittle Ground gives 5% base crit. I'm not using Brittle Ground right now, so I'm not doing quite 20 million. It's probably like, I don't know, 14, 15 or something like that. So yeah, the two cool Spectres are there if you guys want to pick those up. But yes, we have a few other things checked, and it's pretty important to go over that. So we're going to go with Animate Guardian gear. So yes, we have the... Actually, let's put it here so you can see the full stats. We have the Kingmaker. You want to try to get increased area per quality, and I like to get a maximum attack speed roll, a few divines thrown at it, not a big deal. You can farm the Soul Taker through divination cards in Sepulcher and Cage map, and a few other maps, but those are my two favorite ones. And Heartbreaker is not really that rare. I've found like 3 of them so far this league, and that's about as few as I've found. Normally I find more than that. Victorious Flight is my choice of boots. You want to get the regen 2% of life per second if you were hit recently. I also have a Corrupted Implicit. That's because I had 2 identical ones with that enchant already, so I threw some Vol Orbs. Why not? I got extra Suppress. Suppress is really nice when you have like 80,000 health, which is how much you can have on an Animate Guardian on this build. For the chest, you need a Hunter. I believe it has to be item level 82 or so, with you can apply an additional curse. This is one of 2 caster mods on a Hunter chest, so it's actually really easy to roll if you're using Harvest Reroll Caster, which is how I rolled this. You're looking for some form of resist, and something like, yeah, Spell Suppression is nice to have. Chaos Resist is nice to have. I personally would not play Animate Guardian without max Chaos Resist in this current version of the game, so be very aware of that. And yeah, it's nice to craft the Life as Extra Energy Shield, because that's like 8,000 Energy Shield, and that is a lot. For a helmet, you need a level 85 or higher Baron helmet. You can roll the nearby enemies have minus lightning resistance. I think it's quite important to have an open suffix so you can craft the hybrid Chaos Resist. Oh, one more note. You can actually get a relevant Labyrinth enchant with Elemental Weakness has increased effect. Why would you want that? Because your Animate Guardian is cursing with Elemental Weakness, and it is doing that through the Corruption Implicit of a Glove, and it's stacking with your non-dual curse Assassin Mark because he's constantly applying it. So if he has Elemental Weakness up, and you apply Assassin Mark, you will overwrite his Elemental Weakness. If your Assassin Mark is up and then the Guardian, which can apply 2 curses, then attacks the target, it will actually have both curses active at the same time. And hey, dual curse through Animate Guardian. Not too bad. It took me a while to get these. It should probably take you like 40 Vol Orbs or so. It's not crazy, but you don't really want to be using Animate Guardian until late game anyway, so it matches up pretty decently, I would say. Now, because my chest didn't have any Chaos Resist, I rolled Chaos Modifier through Harvest and all the Chaos Essences, and then corrupted the glove. So the base Chaos Resist on minions, and Animate Guardian as well, is 30. So you get 30 from that, you can get 30 or so from your glove, and you can get 15 from a craft on one other piece. I would choose the helmet for that. So 75 Chaos Resist, really important. That is the build. I think utilizes a number of mechanics that are quite powerful. I think if they don't change too much about this character, it is going to be one of, if not the strongest characters to play in a league where you basically get nothing, like a hard mode style league. And, well, if you want to try a new build, well, people say Absolution is one of the best bossers in the game. It is. People say Absolution is pretty easy to play. It is. You literally get the Absolution gem at level 12 and just use that. And people say that Absolution is a bad clear build. And, well, I got to level 98 on the 3rd day of the new league in solo self-found, and I was beating out, I believe, every occultist when I stopped streaming all day. So I think that one is a little bit of a myth. Maybe played in certain ways. Like I played Absolution with Necromantic Aegis before just to get my damage up. You obviously do not need to get your damage up, especially with Divine Blessing tech, which is crazy. And the sheer tankiness of the build lets you instantly leap into tier 16 maps and do whatever content you want. So this might be one of the strongest builds I have played, I have made. And if you guys haven't tried a minion build, this is a pretty fun one to try because, yes, your minions are overpowered, but, I mean, your character does 500,000 DPS as well. It's, that's like, what is that, like, is that like 1 Quinn? 1 Quinn! 1 Quinn worth of DPS! Easy. Thanks for watching. See you next time.